Hello and welcome back. I'm having to modify some vacuum chambers we've got. I bought these from a UK seller, ZVac, Zuoto, vacchambers.co.uk, whatever you want to call them. I would absolutely 100% recommend you avoid them at all costs. These were months behind schedule. We thought they'd stolen our money basically and run off with it. And what they ended up delivering in the end is not what we asked for. I wanted to have chambers which we would have 8 ports coming into, which would take a 6mm tube, and that would have bulkhead fittings on, which would seal against the tubes. So, unfortunately, although we did get the chambers, these are just standard quarter BSP bulkhead fittings. They're not going to fit a tube through them, and they're certainly not going to seal a tube against them. So I'm gonna have to drill these out so I can fit a tube through. And then I have, as a cheap option, some bulkhead, and then I have as a cheap option, these push to fit connectors. And I've had some success in the past in drilling these out from the back to the O-ring so that this can pass through. It's common in vacuum infusion setups to have a push to connect tube going into your resin catch pot, which the tube can go straight through. You can also use the same push to connect fittings on your resin drawer in. Again, going straight through the connection into the pot. Couldn't find connections which would go straight through in the UK, though I didn't look overly hard. So I'm hoping I might be able to drill these ones out and see if we can get a through the wall connection for the tube, so the tube can pass all the way in and go into a mold inside. Well, my ultimate goal of this is to, for one of our products, we need to cast a lot of parts, and that's going to need no bubbles, essentially, and they're reasonably complicated molds, so just casting an atmosphere by pouring in isn't going to cut it. So rather than trying to do a pressure pot, I'm going to put the molds in the chamber, evacuate all the air, and then draw the resin in through the mold. And any bubbles can't happen because there's no air to get entrapped within the mold. At least that's the hope. So I have 2 of these chambers. We've got 8 inputs on each one, so we can potentially put 8 molds at a time in. These are more than big enough to have 2 layers of molds, which should be fine. But we need to get these tubes through to allow the resin to get in. So let's see if we can drill these out and see if we can drill these out. I've got replacement O-rings for these, so if it doesn't work out, we can try that. The other option is to get some BSP cable glands, which are designed for putting electrical cables through waterproof connections, potentially subsea connections, and those are about 6 times the price of each one of these. When I've got 16 of those, it adds up really quickly. So I'm hoping to see if I can get these ones working in the meantime. My first attempt is going to be doing this with the wood lathe, which might work for these bulkhead connectors, but I don't think it'll work for the push to fit connectors. If this doesn't work, we'll try the drill press. This is going to be, if it will work, an ideal solution, as it's going to get a nice concentric hole down the middle, whereas drill press is a little bit harder to get that set up for. But I'm just using pen turning jaws, and I'm not entirely sure if they're going to hold this tightly enough for me to drill. So let's give this a shot. Seems to be going well so far. And that's drilled all the way through, so that's worked out really well. So I'll do the other 7 of these, and we will see if we can do anything with the push to connect fittings. So over at the CNC router, because I've got an easy 6mm push to connect fitting which I can use here, I've got the cap drilled out, the push to connect end drilled out, so it will fit a 6mm tube all the way through. So I've secured that onto a bulkhead with a cap, and we'll put that onto the end of a bit of hose, which we should be able to feed all the way through. This is running at raw air compressor pressure, so it should be over about 120 PSI, probably around 140 PSI at the moment. And when I turn this tap on, we'll see if this leaks at all. The main worry is that the O-ring's not going to hold the pressure without the lip which the tube would sit against. Okay, here's the tap. Heard that fill up. Doesn't sound like there's any leak. So obviously when this is under vacuum, it's going to have negative pressure on it, but it'll have 10 times less negative pressure. So the fact that that is holding, to me, says that that is working very well. It's now another day for me, and I've picked up a deburring tool, which I managed to get in before Amazon's cutoff last night. I wanted to stop yesterday where we were because all of these gasket O-rings were getting completely cut to shreds by this complete burred up, awful holes. I didn't want to put them back on with the holes so mangled. So I got my deburring tool. Now I can clean these holes up, and then we can reassemble this without shredding all of the gaskets. There we go, done. So now we can start reassembling all of these bulkhead connections, and we can get on with getting our tubes into here. So we just put the vacuum fittings on. I'm putting a little bit of super lube on the gaskets, which will just help it create an even better seal. Well, I was hoping to get this all finished up today, but it looks like we're going to be waiting on parts for the vacuum pump to come in. I need some adapters for that. Also didn't get any vacuum oil with the pump. Don't know why, so I need to order some of that. That's going to take several days to get in. But in the meantime, this chamber looks like it's pretty much ready to go. It's a decent sized chamber though, so hopefully it'll work out well and we'll get some really good castings out of this. I guess part 2 will be at some time in the future when we have a working vacuum pump and I can actually do some casting. Thank you very much for watching. Love it if you could take a look at some of our other videos. If you're into vacuum chambers, you're probably going to be into our other videos. If you think you are, hit subscribe, click the bell for notification. If you've got any comments, suggestions on what we're doing with this or anything else, leave a comment below. Have a fantastic day.